Joined us for this particular seminar, financial empowerment seminar. We are going to turn everything over to our guests in a few minutes and let them present. So some housekeeping rules just to set the atmosphere. If you have a question as they are presenting, please enter that question into the chat box, and at the end of their presentations, both of their presentations, we will go back to the chat box and go down the line with each question to provide answers to you. Mr. Myers and Mr. Jeter will be able to answer those particular questions while we're going through the seminar. If you are not speaking, please mute your line. And I know Brother McKeever is going to help us with that, because he's going to kind of help us monitor that. If somebody's mic is open and we can hear some feedback, then he will go ahead on and mute your mic. But we're asking you to voluntarily, just mute your mic, and we'll go forward. So with that said and done, the first presenter that we have up, which one want to go first, Nolan or Kenny? Which one?
Okay.
First?
I'll go ahead and go first.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. So thank you guys for being here. I definitely appreciate it. Wanted to give you a little bit background. My name is Kenyatta Myers. I've been a financial advisor for the last 4 years, previously with Wells Fargo, and recently joined a new firm called Centurio Wealth, focused on financial planning, overall planning, and making sure that you're ready for the future. What I'm going to go over on this presentation today is a overall view of how I deal with my clients, how I'm able to set everything up to where we make sure that their future is taken care of. We make sure that they have a emergency fund and a budget. First and foremost, what I do tell all of my clients is make sure that before you start investing or anything like that, have an emergency fund. Really, before you want to get in the market, do things to where you're tying your money up somewhere else, you have at least 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund. It's pretty much like if you wanted to do an auto draft, say from your payroll, or if you wanted to be disciplined enough to start saving maybe $50, $25 a week, a month, a paycheck. Just start getting into the habit of saving, because that's the most important part of financial planning. Is being able to be obedient, be direct in saving your money and figuring out how to use it once you have it. Second, once you've done that emergency fund, you really want to get into investing. I have a conversation with people about investing versus trading. Investing sets you with the goal first before you say, for example, you to buy certain stocks or mutual funds. You always have to have a goal, whether it's long term, you want to save for retirement and have that there, or short term, you want to save for a down payment of a vehicle. And sometimes getting into the stock market is one of the options that you have when you want to save. So I always tell people, have a plan. Like I said, either to supplement income or any kind of short or long-term gains. Also, protection. The one thing that we lack in this world as minorities is protection, insurance over ourselves, our businesses, just to protect our family. So like I use an analogy, the quarterback is the highest paid person on the field usually, but you pay good money for your left tackle. because you want to make sure that that quarterback is protected. You want to make sure that if anything hits that blind side, you know that you have enough, you have emergency funds, you have insurance, you have things that are able to protect you and your family in case of an accident or untimely death. The one thing I do say about investing in a retirement plan and starting off with an emergency fund is a quote that I like to give people: long obedience in the right direction. Um, as you know, we as a group of people like to spend money and like the finer things in life. Um, Instant gratification is something that we all fight every day. Even me, myself, as an advisor who know better. I know better than to really want that new shiny thing that's in a car lot. But like I said, we do have to make sure that we we get it together. We we set ourselves up so we're not focused on that instant gratification, and make sure that we save our money. Without a plan, really, it will be unorganized. You really want to make sure, like I said, you have your savings, investment, and protection. Really, these three things will set you up in the right direction. We can get you set up with a retirement plan. Should get set up with, say, if you have kids, maybe you want to send them to college. It's just a bunch of different vehicles to where you can set yourself up for a better future. Because 9 times out of 10, what we really want to do is have a comfortable retirement, have the best retirement we can have. Because when you retire, every day is the weekend. So when you start now with saving, then you'll better set yourself and your family up for the future, and be able to live the lifestyle that you want in retirement. So I definitely always encourage people to speak with a financial advisor or financial planner. It's not something you do once you have the money. Like I said, if you can't manage $1,000, you can manage $100,000. So really forming that habit, it becomes habitual to do the right thing, to make sure that you are diligent and calculated in how you plan your life from now going forward. Pretty much, are you ready for the future? Create a relief plan, create something to where you have protection, make sure that you're steady in your investments, and definitely the future will be bright for you.
All right, beautiful. I guess I'll go next then. My name is Nolan Jeter. As you can see in the chat, I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. I'll try to touch on a couple of things. So I'll introduce myself, number one. Number two, I'll talk a little bit about my firm. And then number three, I'll try to do my best not to repeat everything Kenyatta just said. So before I even get started, let me just let you all know I completely agree with everything that Kenyatta just said. So we are going to be very aligned in our investment philosophies and how we could probably help you all. So just know, you're probably not going to go wrong either way by, speaking with either one of us. But that being said, before I jump in, I see like half of the screen does not have their cameras turned on. I hope that's not because you're feeling intimidated because you don't have a suit on. Nobody's expected to have a suit on. It's a thank you. Yes, thank you. Anyone else who wants to turn your camera on, please turn your camera on. It's much more engaging when I can see the people I'm speaking with, if you don't mind. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. First off, like I said, Nolan Jeter. I'm from Philadelphia originally. Lived down here in Atlanta. I went to Morehouse College years ago. I've been a financial advisor with Edward Jones for 6 years now. Before that, I used to work for a bank, BB&T. So I've been in finance for a little over 10 years now, or coming up on 10 years actually this year. So been in this industry for a good bit, and I've been able to help a lot of people and do some meaningful, fulfilling work, which I love to do. I plan to retire doing exactly what I do right now because I love doing what I do. So that's important to know. I'm also a big foodie as well. So if anyone wants to talk outside of money about food, I'd love to talk about that as well. A little bit about the firm that I work for, Edward Jones. We are one of the largest financial advisory firms in the world. We manage over $1 trillion in assets, over 19,000 advisors across North America. But probably most important that I always like to bring up anytime I speak to people is that we have a very big reputation in our industry for being one of the most ethical firms in our industry, which means that we always do what's in our clients' best interest. So we act as fiduciaries for all our clients. We don't just sell you things. We always give you a comprehensive advisement based on what is most appropriate for you all. So my office is located right across the street from where the Braves play, Truist Park, formerly SunTrust Park. I've been there for about 4 years now, I believe. 3 or 4 years now, and before that I used to be in Smyrna, right across from the city hall there. And I do see the questions coming in the chat, so please keep those coming in. So a couple of topics I did want to hit on just to supplement what Kenyatta already said. He's absolutely right. Discipline is probably the biggest thing when it comes to saving and investing. You know, I know what I do. You know, I know how to invest people's money. I know my firm knows how to invest people's money. We know how to grow people's money. We do that really well. But that's meaningless if you're not disciplined enough to contribute to your portfolio the way you're supposed to. So, you know, speaking to somebody who's in their 20s saving for retirement, I'm going to have a very different conversation with them than I would with someone who's in their 50s just starting to save for retirement. You know, I've had conversations with families who come to me and said, you know, hey, what if we started a fund for a kid every time a new kid is born? And we looked at the numbers and said, you know, we could conservatively invest this money. You know, if we could save up like just maybe 5,000 or 7,000, we could have a few million saved up by the time this kid turns retirement age. Meaning that kid wouldn't even have to work their whole life. They wouldn't have to work, and they would be sitting on a few million by the time they're ready to retire. So you just think about that. What does that mean? It just means that proactivity always works in your favor. You know, time is your biggest asset when it comes to investing. A lot of times you see things on your social media timelines where you see these hot stocks or these new investments, whether it's CBD oil, whether it's cryptocurrency or some small cannabis stock in Canada that you think, oh, I need to put my money in this and flip it really quick or turn into a millionaire. That's not how Warren Buffett got rich. That's not how you invest. That's how you gamble. So investing and gambling are two very different things. So I just want to make that clear. I do not do anything in that realm of, you know, flipping money or, you know, trying to get you rich quick, because the reality is no matter how well it was presented to you on Facebook or, you know, by a friend or something like that, rest assured that is not quality investing. That's speculative. And a lot of times those things are like multi-level marketing schemes or Ponzi schemes or something like that as well. So I definitely want to hit on that because as I can see in this group and, you know, I'm very familiar with this fraternity that we're talking to the African-American community here. And throughout my years in this industry, I can tell you investments are a struggle in the Black community. Investments and insurance, everything financial is a challenge in this community. It's because typically we don't grow up in a household where we're introduced to these things. You know, I'm from West Philadelphia, and if anyone's familiar with that area outside of the Fresh Prince song, you know that that's not a affluent community. There's no money in West Philadelphia. Nobody in my family had any money. So I was the first person, me and my sister, we were first generation college students, and we were the first ones to, you know, really, you know, have assets to grow and things like that. But it wasn't because the people in my family were stupid. It was just because they weren't exposed to what was in their best interest. And I can also attest to the fact that, like I said, I used to work in a bank before I joined Edward Jones. If you came into that bank and wanted to talk to me about investments and you didn't have $250,000 to invest today, I was not even allowed to have a conversation with you. Let that sink in for just a sec. I wasn't even allowed to have a conversation with you about investments if you didn't have at least $250,000 to invest today. How many folks in the Black community have $250,000 to invest with me or anybody today? Very few. So I say that to say you really should take advantage of opportunities like this today. Take advantage of people like myself, Kenyatta, folks who come into this industry with an agenda to help our people, to help the people who probably need this advisement the most, because this industry as a whole is systematically racist, meaning that there's not a lot of financial advisors who look like myself and Kenyatta. There's not a lot of financial advisors who are willing to help people who look like yourself in this industry and give you quality advice. I can tell you, I can't even count how many times people who look like me have come to me and said, yeah, I used to have this account with such and such firm. I'm not even going to name the firm, but I'm probably sure you have all probably heard of such firms out there where it's probably a family member, a church member who came to you and invested your money, and now you have a horror story to tell about it. Now you have a reason not to deal with a financial advisor because that person sold you something that you should have never had your money in. I've seen it all the time. I can't even count how many horror stories I've seen in this industry. So, it's very challenging to find a quality financial advisor that's going to have your best interest in mind. So just know this, if you learn nothing from this seminar here, you should work with a financial advisor, just like you would work with a doctor. And just like working with a doctor, I see a lot of black men on this call, prostate exams, you need to get that at a certain age, and you getting it early is going to help you a lot more than getting it on the back end because, you saw a problem. You know what I mean? Same thing goes for working with a financial advisor. We're just like CPAs. We're just like doctors. We're just like lawyers. We're the people on your professional team that you would want to talk to sooner than later. And the thing about that relationship with a financial advisor is you want to work with somebody who's not only capable of giving you the right advice, but someone who values you as a client as well. You don't want to be that person in the relationship saying, oh, my girlfriend or boyfriend, he'll change, she'll value me later. You want someone who's going to value you today. So if that financial advisor isn't going to treat you seriously and give you the right advice until you're $1 million client and you don't have $1 million today, you shouldn't be working with that person. Work with someone who's going to value you today and give you the right advice and the right, service today that's going to get you to being $1 million client. That's going to allow you to transfer some wealth to your kids and the generations after you. Because in the Black community, we don't transfer wealth. We transfer debt. That's a real thing. Mm-hmm. I have grandparents who passed away. We didn't get their house because both of my grandparents ended up needing Medicaid. Kenyatta just spoke about life insurance a little minute ago. Life insurance is important to not only transfer wealth to cover a burial, but think about what happens before you die. People are living longer nowadays, which means that more than likely before you die, you're probably going to need some help. You're going to need a nurse to come to the house, or you're going to need to stay in an assisted living house. And if you don't know, that stuff is expensive. More expensive than you probably have in your account right now, which means that you're going to need some help from the government. And if the government steps in, that means you don't transfer wealth. You don't transfer anything to your kids because the government takes it all. You get what I'm saying? These are the things that in the Black community we don't think about. And that's why my grandparents didn't have a house to give to my parents or to me or anybody in the family. And still to this day, some of my cousins are wondering, what happened to that house? Well, we don't own that house. It don't matter that we grew up in the house. We don't own it anymore. It's gone. There's nothing that transfers because there was no proactive thought that went into building wealth and transferring wealth. So you need to have somebody that's going to work in you and your family's best interest to make sure that your goals are accomplished and there's a legacy that's left behind so that your grandkids and great grandkids don't have to take out student loans. They don't have to get mortgages if they don't want to. These are the things that you can take into your own hands if you're proactive about them. People look at the Kennedys and think, oh, that's the American dream. These people, they're so far off from me. The reality is they don't have to be. All it takes is some proactive thought, some disciplined saving, some disciplined investing. And it doesn't take, investing in the things that you see on your timeline or that somebody hit you up on a chain text message about because, there's some group of people that are, flipping money, or you give me $200 and you might get 10,000 next week or something like that. That's gambling. If you want to gamble, go to Vegas. You get better odds out there. But the reality is, if you want to invest, if you want to take your finances seriously, work with a financial advisor. Get a plan in place. Get a strategy that aligns with what's important to you. I hope that I've touched on a good amount of things to kind of spark a thought and perk up the antennas a bit and get some questions going. But please, take advantage of this time as best you can. Like I said, like this information and access to quality financial advisors is something you don't want to take for granted, because it's not very common, especially in the Black community, for sure. And even beyond the Black community, I have a client who, he has millions with me, right? So pretty decent client. He has a few million with me. His family has even more money with a financial advisor, because this is the family's financial advisor. They've been helping this family for decades. This financial advisor that's over that family's money, and mind you, the family has more money than that one client has with me. So we're talking pretty sizable assets here. When they reach out to that financial advisor and ask a question, it literally takes 3 weeks for that advisor to get back to them. 3 weeks. And literally, that financial advisor, she's like, not to speak ill, but she's really old. So like she probably shouldn't even be a financial advisor anymore. But I just say that to say, there are people up here with assets that don't get quality advisement, and rest assured, the people down here with no assets, they never get quality advisement. It's very rare. So take advantage of having, good people on the call who we can, ask questions to and get some quality answers, and, kind of go from here. Also, I know there's things like Dave Ramsey, Susie, like there's plenty of folks out there on the podcast you can get advisement from. And I do support the majority of the things that they say on those calls or on those radio shows and podcasts. But just keep in mind, that's general information. That's general information. Your investments, your finances are never one size fits all. When I first started at the bank, fresh out of school, fresh out of college, I asked the person next to me how much I should put into a 401k. That's a mistake. That person's older than me. That person might want to retire at a different age than me. That person might want to retire and go down to Florida and fish all day. I might want to retire on a yacht eating lobster tails. How could we possibly be putting the same amount towards our 401k? That doesn't make any sense. So when you talk to that person at work and say, hey, what are you doing with your 401k? I should do that. No, you shouldn't. When your neighbor says, hey, you should buy some Tesla stock. Why? First of all, you don't even know why they should be buying Tesla stock, let alone if it was a good idea for them. You don't know if it's a good idea for you. So it doesn't matter. Investments are never one size fits all. So take advantage of this advice here. Know the difference between the advisement from that person who's trying to sell you something versus the advisement of somebody acting as a fiduciary. Know the difference between the stuff you hear on the radio, which is general advice that the common person who's doing nothing probably needs to hear, versus individualized advice that's relative to your situation and what's important to you. That's all I got to say. So I guess if you want to move forward with the questions or wherever.
Okay, well, we're ready for the Q&A part of the program. Our first question, and we're going to go back to Brother Myers again. Should the emergency fund be a savings account, CD, or some other or better interest-bearing account?
Good question. So my opinion is, for a emergency fund, you can put it in a savings account. It will really not focus too much on interest bearing because, like I said, it's money that's set aside for 3 to 6 months. Obviously, you want to put it in somewhere like a money market, somewhere that's FDIC insured up to $250,000. But make sure that when you do have that emergency fund, you have it somewhere where you can't really get access to it unless you need it. I know what I do. I just take it out of my payroll account each month to where it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But as far as a CD, it's something that's long term. I said it's interest bearing, yes, but your money might be tied up for a year, and say you have an emergency 6 months in, you might pay all kind of fees or things like that, as far as putting your money in a CD that's tied up for a specific amount of time.
Hey, Mr. Jeter.
Yeah, I would agree with what Kenyatta said, and I would probably even drive it a little further to just conceptualize what you mean by emergency savings. So anytime we're talking about investments and savings in particular, you should have 2 layers to your savings. You should have emergency savings and reserve savings. And your emergency savings, that's where you have to ask yourself, if something happened to me today that I had to pay for today, what's the largest expense that could happen there? For me, just to be transparent, I have a house, a car, and a dog. But when it comes to my emergency savings, the house isn't really considered because there's homeowners insurance to cover what is major in the house. So if there's something outside of homeowners insurance, then there's probably a contractor. No, I'm not paying the contractor today. I'm paying them. This is a major project. I'll pay them when the work is done. So it might be a few days from now. But my dog or my car, something happens to either one of those two, I'm gonna have to pay that today. So you have to ask yourself in your life, what's the biggest expense that could pop up on you today that you would need to access that money today to pay for? And that money should be in a savings account that you can easily access today. On a Sunday when the bank is closed, you can touch that money. That's where your emergency money should be. Reserve savings, that's the money where you hear people say you have to have 6 months of a paycheck saved up or something like that. And once again, that's general advice. So 6 months of a paycheck is meaningless when it's relative to your life. It's really, you think about if you lost your job, how long is it going to take you to find another job and get back on your feet financially? And it's not a paycheck, it's your expenses monthly that really needs to be saved up. So if I'm talking to a teacher or a nurse, they could lose their job today, probably find another one next week. If I'm talking to a lawyer or a realtor, they could be employed and not make income for 6 months. So you need to ask yourself, how much do I pay monthly for everything, for my standard of living, and how many months of those reserves do I need? That money can be invested, but it needs to be invested conservatively. So you can still touch it if you need to touch it. Even if it's March of this year when a pandemic is hitting, you should still be able to touch that money if you needed to. So that's where we would, look at something conservative. CDs more so, or, time to a particular, time frame. So, if you've got money saved up for your kid's education, tuition isn't going to be due until, September, then you might get a CD that's good until September or something like that. You just want to be purposeful about making sure whatever bucket your money is in, it's the right bucket.
Our next question. What about investing as a club? What are the advantages versus the disadvantages? Mr. Myers?
To be honest with you, I'm not too familiar on investing as a club. I've heard some things about it. It's not something that I really focus on in my practice, only because I am more so of a retirement long-term planning advisor. As far as clubs, like I said, I've heard some horror stories. I've heard some good things, but it's not something that I necessarily am interacting with in my day-to-day, or very rarely do I really involve myself in that.
Mr. Jeter?
I have worked with investment clubs in the past, and I'll tell you the big pro to it, the thing that I like about investment clubs is that they get people to do something. Like people kind of rallying together and saving their money collectively might motivate people that normally would not save individually to save. So that's the advantage to it. However, what I don't like about investment clubs is that oftentimes you got a little too much going. You got too many decision makers in the room. Too many chiefs in the hut. As they say. So just like Kenyatta said, you don't have to save up $10,000 to invest. You can start today with what you have today. And I think that's why a lot of times investment clubs get started, is because people think, oh, we need to pool our money together so we can get a real return in the market. And that's not true. You can start anywhere, when it comes with investments. You can start anywhere and just build on your own. And those returns on your investment would still be the same relative to what they would have been if it was a larger pot of money. So the percentages are still the same. So there's really, people just think like, okay, if I have a larger ball of money to get 10% on, then I'm going to get more money, but you're not factoring in the fact that you're splitting that money with 10 to 15 other people, so the reality is you can still get that same percentage return on your money wherever you're starting today. And I think that's some of the myths about investment clubs, is that you have to pool your money together to invest, and you just don't.
Okay, next question. What are your thoughts on cryptocurrencies, the pros and cons of that industry?
So cryptocurrency, my thoughts on that is currency is either backed by military or government. Cryptocurrency is something that's relatively speculative. I don't involve cryptocurrency in my investment planning for my clients. Like I said, I give them the same spiel. backed by government or military. It's like I said, it's still a speculative thing. It's really not something that someone like a Warren Buffett would really invest in. So I really don't involve myself with investing or recommending any type of cryptocurrency backed assets or investments for my clients.
Jeter?
I would echo exactly what Kenyatta just said, and I'll even conceptualize it a little better because I know quite a bit about cryptocurrencies, probably more than the average person does. And the reality is that there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is, about what they are, how they work, and how you make money off of it. First and foremost, I'll just let you know, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you have some cognitive dissonance that allows you to live in this country and pay taxes, I'll just let you know it's never been in anyone's best interest to bet against the American dollar. It has never been. It has never worked out. And people who have made a lot of advances in that initiative. What happened to them? What happened to Muammar Gaddafi? What happened to Saddam Hussein? People who tried to back Africa's resources as to fuel their economy. That's a threat to the American dollar. We're not going to have that. We're going to make that person a terrorist. We're going to drag their body out in the street. That's how our country operates. We will scratch and claw and kill, and we will do anything we need to do to protect the American dollar, morally bound or not. It's never in your best interest to bet against the American dollar. You bet on cryptocurrencies, you're betting against the American dollar. That's number one. Number two, who started cryptocurrency? Does anyone know? No one knows. Why? Because that person is anonymous. So literally the largest shareholder of the person who owns the most cryptocurrency today, we have no idea who that person is. We don't know if it's a collective group of people. We don't know if it's one person. And rightfully so. I just told you, if the government probably found out who that person was, they'd probably be public enemy number one, right? So that's number two. Number three, just like Kenyatta said, cryptocurrency isn't backed on anything, which means it's not centralized, which if you're an anti-government person, that probably sounds really appealing to you. But the reality is there's a reason why currencies are centralized. Understand that in America, we have the most powerful military in the world. So you also probably are aware that our debt in this country is through the roof. We owe countries money right now. So imagine you owe money to somebody, to your neighbor, and your neighbor comes around and says, hey, when are you going to pay me my money? And you know that in the house, you got a backyard full of dogs, you got an arsenal full of guns. You're going to say, what? I'm not paying you this money back. I got the strongest military in the world. Come take this money. That's what centralized that's what the centralized banks do for us, is to prevent governments from saying, no, I'm not going to pay you. Come get this money. So having centralized currency serves a purpose to prevent countries from turning into bullies and prevent, another country's dollar being meaningless, So these things are very important. And also, last point on cryptocurrencies, do you, just practically, the way in which you make money off of a cryptocurrency, there's only one way. The only way for you to make a profit off of a cryptocurrency is for more people to buy into that cryptocurrency. If more people don't buy into that cryptocurrency, the value does not go up. What does that sound like? A Ponzi scheme. That's how Ponzi schemes, pyramid schemes work. Exactly. I'm not saying cryptocurrencies are that, but just know that in order to make money off of it, it needs to work like a pyramid scheme, like a Ponzi scheme. So just go into it, just like Kenyatta said. If you're going to buy into cryptocurrencies, keep in mind it is a speculative investment. It's speculative. You should not be betting your retirement on cryptocurrency at all. The best thing that came from cryptocurrencies was blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is not exclusive to cryptocurrencies anymore.
Right.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Next question. Now, since we're in that frame, what are your thoughts on Forex investing?
Good question. So my thoughts on Forex investing is something that, like I said, I really don't involve too much in, because like I said, I wouldn't necessarily say it's speculative, but it involves a high amount of risk. And when I talk to my clients, one of the first things we talk about is their risk tolerance. How much risk are you able to take in order to reach your goals, and how long is your time horizon? Usually when I talk to clients about that, Forex really doesn't fit in that realm, because you have to throw a lot of money in it in order to really make a I guess a sound investment for your retirement or for whatever you're looking for. And I believe there's other ways to get to specific goals outside of investing in Forex.
Mr. Jeter?
I'm going to differ a little bit from Kenyatta on that one and be a little more critical of Forex and let you know it is speculative. It's very speculative. It is extremely speculative. I've seen people turn 5,000 into 50,000 in a matter of a couple hours on the Forex. And I've seen 50,000 turn into nothing in a couple of minutes on the Forex. It is extremely speculative. So that being said, you cannot, just like I can't, and mind you, I've been in this industry, I can't tell you, Warren Buffett can't tell you what the stock market is going to open at on Monday at 9:30. Nobody can. If somebody tells you they can, they're lying to you. They're selling you a dream. Same thing goes for the Forex. You're literally trading and exchanging currencies. You have no idea what the American dollar is going to be relative to the Brazilian dollar or the euro pound. Like, you have no clue what that is going to open at tomorrow. So that idea that, oh, this is how people get rich. Sure. Maybe one person out of every 100,000 actually made a significant amount of money off of that. But along with that, you have thousands of people who lost their money. The odds are very much so against you in regards to just not losing your money. not gaining money, just not losing your money. The odds are very much against you if you're trying to invest in the Forex. So there's no way that you're going to be tying Forex trading to your retirement savings, to your kids' educations. It just wouldn't make sense. That's not investing. That's gambling. That's speculative. And furthermore, just since I'm talking to the Black community right now, the people who make money on Forex are the people who are training you how to use the Forex, not the people investing. Those people investing, if they made their millions, why are they talking to you? Ask yourself these questions, please, people, before you give people your money. Why is that person even talking to me? And who is this person? Because when I look on social media and I see the people selling Forex trading, who is it? It's the rapper, it's the trapper, it's the people who didn't go to school, it's the people who just, high school students, fresh out, trying to sell you on how much money you can make. I saw this on Twitter literally last week. A friend of mine sent it to me, and it was a text exchange of somebody trying to get their money out of a Forex trading group. And he was telling the people, hey, I just need my money. And everybody in that chat was saying, no, why would you take your money? Are you making $100,000 a month yet? Well, then you need this money. And then he's like, no, I need my money. Just give me my money. He's like literally trying to argue with these people to get his money back. Understand, that is not quality investments. That's not quality investments. That's not, that's not, something where people are telling you things in your best interest. Those are people trying to sell you something. If Warren Buffett made his millions, billions off of quality investments, why isn't he knocking at your door saying, hey, give me $100 so I can flip it for you? Like, there's a big difference between quality investments and speculative gambling and people just trying to come up off of you because you just don't know any better. So just ask the right questions. Think critically and understand that if it's too good to be true, it probably is. It probably is too good to be true.
Yeah, I got something else to say on that. Can you?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing I've also noticed with people in our community is, like I said, we hold on to those shiny things, those Instagram posts, and really those are the type of things, Forex, cryptocurrency, that really feeds off of those people who are looking to get rich, who really do not have any kind of guidance as to how to set up a plan, how to make sure that they have money to invest in quality investments. So I know, like myself and Nolan, I know I'm constantly combating that and letting people know, make sure you have a plan, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, because you'll have Joe Schmo over here who became a Forex trader, and now he looks like he's making a lot of money when it's all glamour. It's all glitz and glamour. It's really not something that you can show how he did this. If I can show you how I can get this person a retirement plan, how I can make sure that we set them up for a future, that's something that I feel like you should really listen to, invest in, and really heed, because showing is really most of the game. It's really all of it. I can show you how to do this. Can they really show you how to get that Lamborghini that they have on their posts? But Forex, no, they really can't. So, like I said, it's something that definitely speak to a financial professional before you go and speak to your cousin's friend who looks like he's made it big in a matter of weeks.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, this segues to the next question. How do you change mindsets? There are many affluent Black millionaires who don't trust the market or investment firms for quote unquote good reasons.
Good question. I like that question. So really, you are leery of what you are not familiar with. We're just not familiar with it as a whole. I don't care if you're a Black millionaire, you're a kid, wherever your monetary status is, you're not familiar with, you don't like, or you're apprehensive about what you're not familiar with. Really, it takes people that look like us to really explain things like this, like seminars and talks, to where we can explain what's going on, why something is good, why you should be able to understand it. And if you have any questions, come to us. The mindset of, I think we got caught up in the mindset of you either have to be an athlete or you have to be a rapper in order to live the lifestyle that you want, which is not true for everyone. Obviously, it's a very small percentage of us that really get those NBA game checks. And so the best way for most of us, for all of us actually, to really live the lifestyle we want is to create a retirement plan and educate people. Financial literacy is really what's lacking in our community. Men, women, kids, financial literacy is something that you really have to, now at this point, it's critical. It's very, very important, versus I know when I was a kid, it was just, okay, I have a checking and a savings. My paycheck goes there, that's it. Now, how can I invest this money? How can I make my money work for me? Is the question that you should almost always be asking yourself, in order to live the lifestyle that you want.
Mr. Jeter?
I would completely agree with Kenyatta on that one. And I would even associate changing mindsets to not just investments, but everything. I mean, you think about the things that have plagued the Black community for years, institutional systematic racism. Think about the Tuskegee experiments. I mean, think about the distrust that we have for doctors in our community. Think about snake oil salesmen. Think about things that have been done with insurance companies in the Black community, like fraud, scams, all these things that have happened. These things, and think about what I've mentioned earlier about those firms, from the person in your church or family member who works for a firm that preys on people who are ignorant to investments, and particularly in the Black community. That stuff happens all the time. I have a cousin who did an internship with a firm, and I won't name the firm because I don't want to badmouth anybody, but he worked for a firm as an intern while he was in college. And the first thing that firm made him do was write down a list of the 20 richest people that he knew. After he wrote down that list, they called those people, they brought him in. My cousin, he's an intern. He doesn't know anything about investing people's money or giving them advice. So what they did was they used him to bring those people in the room, and then they bring in the closer. And the closer comes in and sells them a bunch of stuff that they probably didn't even need. And what happens after this internship is over? Did my cousin become a financial advisor? No, he didn't. It was all worthless for him, but it was a great profit for the company because the company doesn't care about my cousin's future. They just care about getting more people in the door so they can make more sales. So I say that to say there's a huge issue in the Black community about mindsets, about fears, about distrust. And I'm not going to say that that stuff isn't warranted. I'm not going to say that there aren't people against us out there, because there are, systematically, absolutely. But because the government shot up Fred Hammond, because the government killed so many of our Black leaders, are you not going to vote? Because those insurance companies took advantage of us in the past, are you not going to get insurance? And when someone dies, you're going to put up a GoFundMe? Because the doctors in the Tuskegee experiments and gave us all syphilis, down in Tuskegee, Alabama years ago. Does that mean you're not going to go to the doctor and get a prostate exam? So just because there's a fear, just because there's distrust out there, is that what you're going to use as an excuse to hinder your future, your financial future, the future of the generations after you? We just need to do better about educating ourselves and just understand that that information is not going to be spoon-fed to us like our counterparts are spoon-fed that information. Our counterparts grow up in households where they already have an understanding of money before they make their first paycheck. In our community, that's not the case. So we need to be proactive about learning what's in our best interest and aligning ourselves with the right people, just like you all are doing today. This is a really powerful thing that's being done today, and I applaud you, brothers, for putting this together. But just know that, the thing that we all can do, everybody on this call, the best thing we can do is make good information contagious, because there's so much bad information out there that's, everywhere. Just like Kenyatta said, we're constantly battling the talks about cryptocurrencies and, these speculative investments, because Kenyatta and I, we're just one voice in our clients here. Versus as soon as they step outside of our office, there's every voice, every friend, family member, everybody on the timeline is talking about how some 13-year-old became a millionaire off of Bitcoin. Understand that ignorance is common. Common sense is not so common. So we need to do our best to spread this information, educate our people. That's how we change mindsets, is by educating people in our community on what's in their best interest and what they should be doing. The more we make it common, the better off we all will be, for sure.
Okay. All right. Next question is, please advise on credit recovery versus investing.
I don't think it's a versus type of thing, but as far as credit recovery, I always say take control of your situation. Credit recovery and credit is a intimidating thing for a lot of people, because we made mistakes, we've done things that we shouldn't, but taking control is really the first step. Holding yourself accountable, seeking help. I know with me, I like to make sure that everything is laid out on the table. What can we take care of as far as budgeting, putting money where it needs to go before we really start to talk about investing? Because what you don't want to happen is you have, say, $10,000 and you invested in the stock market, and then you need something to either change your credit score or make it go up, and you need to put that $10,000 that we invested for your retirement into helping your credit recover. Now, as far as the credit recovery specialist, definitely do your research, because that can be one of the biggest scams that I've heard so far, and people trying to get their credit together. So definitely do your research. Your financial planner is always the first person you talk to, because we have the resources to really figure out, okay, can this person help you out? Because right now, I don't believe, I might be a little bit wrong, there's really no kind of criteria or, status to where like I'm a financial planner because I have such and such licensing. I don't believe there's a license to really help people fix credit. So like I said, that's something that you have to be leery of. I've heard some good stories and I've heard some bad ones. So like I said, your financial planner is always the first person you go to when you feel like you found someone on credit recovering, on getting your credit score up, because that's the first step. Before we start investing, we budget, we make sure that all of your bills, your long-term debt, short-term debt are in order, so we'll have that leftover money, or so we're able to invest the money instead of always having to take that money in and pay off a bill.
Jeter?
I would completely agree with Kenyatta, and I would confirm what he said, that there is no license for a credit repair specialist at all. There's no school that you go to or any licenses for that. I'll say two things in this regard. The first is, just like Kenyatta said, there's no versus, right? There's no credit recovery versus investing. It's all part of your financial picture, right? So normally when it comes to debt and debt repayment, a lot of times people will take an approach that's not rational at all. You know, I hear it all the time. People will leave a job, find out they have an old 401k at that job, and they'll say, oh, I'm going to cash this out to pay off my mortgage. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And what's the rationality behind it? When I ask them, why would you do that? Oh, I just want to be debt-free. Now, let me ask you, and mind you, being debt-free may be a goal, and it may make sense. But let me ask you this. If your mortgage is costing you 3.5% a year, and your investments are growing 8% a year, why would you take money that could have been invested and pay off a mortgage? There's this idea that debt is bad or debt is wrong. Debt is not bad and debt is not wrong. You just need to use it appropriately. Most times people don't use it appropriately. Our country doesn't even use it appropriately. Look at the debt, look at the deficit. This is crazy. Our government spends like a college student with a credit card. It's ridiculous, right? But you as an individual, you need to look at, in your finances, what is costing you the most money and what's making you the most money. Look at those interest rates on those credit cards. Look at the interest rates on those student loans, the interest rate on your mortgage. Look at what your investments are growing. And prioritize what is costing you or making you the most money. And when I say prioritize, I don't mean put all your money into whatever is making you or costing you the most interest. Because if your investments are making you the most money and you put all your money into your investments, but you don't put any money towards paying off your debt, years from now, you're going to have a nice sized portfolio, but your debt will be out of control. And vice versa, if you put all your energy towards paying off your debt and nothing towards your investments, 20 years from now, you're debt free and you got nothing to show for it. You got no assets, no investments, no money you can do anything with. So there's no versus. It all plays together. And you want to talk to a professional to give you some advice on the best approach, the best strategy for doing that. But beyond that, that was my first point. The second point I will tell you, when it comes to getting advice on debt repayment, I mentioned before, I used to be a banker. You all have a resource for debt repayment and credit recovery, and you just don't even know it. If you have a bank account, there is a banker who will give you free advice on how you can help your credit report. Schedule a meeting with the branch manager. Schedule a meeting with whoever is the personal loan officer in that branch. And that person will gladly give you advice on how you can improve your debt. You don't need to pay for a class. You don't need to, do something tricky with your, the Comcast is coming after you for a bill in 2013. You don't need to do anything tricky. There's a very logical approach to how you can repair your credit. And sure, you're not going to pay $1,000 and we're going to just make everything disappear, because that's how they sell it to you. That's not how it works. You can get lucky, but you don't even have to pay anybody to get lucky like that. All you have to do is go to the credit reporting agency, go to Equifax or Experian, and just dispute it. That's all you have to do. You say, hey, I don't know these people. I don't know why they're coming after me for this medical bill. And then they'll dispute it for you. And then they'll say, if the company doesn't respond, then it'll get wiped off your credit. But there are people who charge you $1,000 for that piece of advice that you can easily just do yourself. That's my point. So just like Kenyatta said, there's a lot of scams out there, a lot of scheming on the Black community about advice that really is already at your fingertips. Just go into your bank. If you have money with that bank, you're their client. Use their resources. Go talk to the branch manager, talk to the lending officer. They will gladly give you advice on how to repair your credit, because it's in their best interest for you to grow your credit, because they know if you have better credit, you can get more loans from them. So they want you to have better credit, and they'll give you that advice. So that's right in your own backyard. Whatever your local branch is for the bank you bank with, that's what they do for you. FYI.
That's one I never heard before. Go to the banker. That's a good one. All right, next question. Explain the advantages of getting long-term insurance.
Advantages of getting long-term insurance. Like I said, he spoke to it earlier, Medicaid. Long-term insurance will help you avoid getting Medicaid, which will help you gain generational wealth. Long-term care insurance, long-term care without insurance will be one of the most expensive things you have to pay for when you do need it. Like I said, we're living longer, where the healthcare costs are going through the roof, and we need protection. Long-term care insurance is something I recommend for all of my clients because like I said, it's one of the most expensive things you will pay for in retirement. And if you're not ready, it will eat away at your retirement a whole lot sooner than you want. Long-term care insurance, you can get it with your life insurance. It's many different kind of avenues you can get it with, but make sure that you do talk to your financial advisor about long-term health insurance or long-term insurance, and he or she will definitely be able to explain to you what it is, what the ins and outs of it, and how it'll definitely benefit you in the long run.
So, Jeter?
I would just piggyback off everything Kenyatta just said there. Long-term care insurance is probably the thing that people think about the least. It's the most afterthought type of insurance, but it's the thing that more than likely everybody on this call is probably going to need. You think about insurance covers you if you die, right? Everybody on this call will die someday. But the reality is long-term care is for what's going to happen before you die. And here's the thing. If you have long-term care, or if you have a long-term care need later on in life, your first line of defense is going to be probably your spouse or family member, right? Spouse or family member just kind of helps you out, because all it means is that you just can't take care of yourself on your own. You can't eat by yourself or go to the bathroom, or you can't go shopping or, travel by yourself. Like, that's what it means. So somebody in your family is going to be helping out, which means if there's not some sort of reciprocity there, then you're probably going to be a burden on, somebody in your life in that regard. And then at some point, it's probably going to get to the point where they can't do for you what needs to be done for you without it being too much of a burden on them, which means you're going to need to have a nurse come to the house, or you're going to need to stay in an assisted living facility or something, some outpatient thing or something. So the reality is, and you can look this up, you can Google it yourself, what is the average cost for long-term care? You will be very surprised to see that those numbers are not cheap. So I can tell you personally, I have seen nice sized portfolios, very nice sized portfolios where if you saw it, you'd say, oh, that person's set. They're good for life. And I've seen that portfolio go down to zero just from paying long-term care. I've seen it more often than you would think. And it's because people just aren't proactive about it. It's an afterthought. It's like, oh, they'll take care of me later, or, they'll figure it out later. I saved up all this money. My family will figure out. They won't. They won't, because it is expensive. And the cost for it grows every single year. The cost for healthcare and long-term care costs grows faster than inflation. That means that just as fast as you saw that dollar menu disappear from McDonald's, this grows that much faster. So you need to have some sort of plan, some sort of policy in place. And just like Kenyatta said, it could be written into an existing life insurance policy. Like, we can take your current life insurance policy and redo it where we just include long-term care in there. So maybe it still has that death benefit, but we can touch the death benefit money if a long-term care need comes up before you die. So there's a lot of different ways to go about getting long-term care insurance, but it's definitely something that you need to be proactively thinking about. Even if you can't afford the insurance today, you need to have a conversation with somebody just so you know what you have and what you don't have. So when the thing comes up, there's no surprises, because that adds so much more stress to the situation. You just not knowing adds stress to the situation. You not knowing is the same reason why I have cousins to this day talking about my grandparents' house today. My grandparents died over a decade ago, and we're still talking about that house. Cousins are like, yeah, what's going on with that house? We should get that house back. We're not getting the house back because they just don't understand that if you didn't proactively have some coverage in place and we put these people in a nursing home and they take Medicaid, no assets getting transferred. There's no more ownership at that point. So you need to just have a conversation so that there's no surprises. Even if you can't get the coverage, just know where you stand. So that way, when the time comes, no surprises. Everybody knows what needs to be done.
All right. The next question. What are the safest and most sound investments from a grassroots level?
The safest and most sound investment is investing yourself, first of all. Read books. Make sure that you have the necessary knowledge to get through and really be informed. But as far as investing, that's the safest and most sound investment. It's really almost a contradicting phrase because you can get a checking account, you can get a savings account. It's interest bearing, but you won't really see much investing aspects, of making you earn more money through the years. Because one is FDIC insured, so that's always insurance for your safest and most sound investment. But really looking into creating a retirement plan, like I said, we base it off your risk tolerance. Someone who's 20 will be able to invest a lot more aggressive than someone who's 60 and is getting ready to retire in 5 years. So as far as safest and most sound investment, like I said, a checking account that's FDIC insured, but we're really not looking to have something where we don't bear any kind of interest. We're trying to make our money work for us, and it does involve some level of risk. But as far as how much risk can you take, is going to be something that we'll definitely discuss per client basis because every client is different.
Mr. Jeter?
I don't know if you can see, Kenyatta, that was me clapping, the little emoji I had up there, because I wasn't going to answer with that first thing you said, but that should be everybody's answer. Invest in yourself first. That's the safest and thing you need to do from the grassroots level, for sure. So I applaud you for that one, because that wasn't on my mind. But yes, I would just piggyback what Kenyatta said. It really is on a case-by-case basis. I mean, the thing is, and this is, I'll just let you all know, when it comes to me and my practice, education is key. Education is at the forefront of what we do. And granted, I have a lot of clients who are just like, here, Nolan, here's some money, do what you do, and, make it work. And I want to be hands off. And I have other clients who are hands on, and that's perfectly fine. But I would love for people, I always give people the education so they can make an informed decision on how hands on or hands off they want to be, as opposed to just being hands off because they don't know anything or they don't know any better. So education is first and foremost when it comes to, starting. You want to start the right way. And the reason why I say that relative to this question is because if you understand how investments work, your understanding of the level of risk you take would be a lot different. So for example, myself, I live and breathe investments in stock market and all that stuff. So if I see the stock market down, do I panic? No, of course not. When I saw the stock market down this year, back in March, when everyone was losing their minds because they thought this was the zombie apocalypse, I was actually very excited. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I get to invest at a discount to what the market is worth. Oh yeah, obviously I'm putting money in. I'm putting as much money as I can possibly put in. But that's because of my understanding of the stock market. The reality is, and this is where I like to separate, emotions from reality, right? Because when we're dealing with money, you don't want to be emotional, right? The reality about our stock market and our economy is that the stock market and the economy are built upon these constantly expanding models, which means they always have to expand or the system is broken. So it doesn't matter whether the stock market is up or down this year, because it's always going to be up more than it's down. You want to think about investing in the stock market like you would think of watching a person play with a yo-yo or walk up a flight of stairs. You focus on the yo-yo, that's that up and down you see every single day if you zoom in on that small picture. But if you zoom out and focus on the big picture, you should always be going upwards. That's how the stock market always works. That's how it has worked since its inception. And the day that it stops doing that is the day that American dollars are meaningless. If our economy and stock market do not continue to expand and go up more than they go down, literally you will not be able to take an American dollar and go to the grocery store and buy milk or bread. That's the reality that people forget in the midst of a recession. They forget that in the midst of a pandemic. They forget that in the midst of a 9/11. Because when all this fear and confusion is put right in front of your face, it's hard for you to see beyond what's right in front of your face. But if you're a savvy investor or someone who just understands or is educated on how the stock market works and how investments work, then you would know that anything that happens today that just brought our market down is only temporary. It doesn't matter how bad it is. Literally, when those planes hit the towers, we at that time thought this is the worst thing that has ever happened. But we recovered. This happening this year, crazy. Like we've never seen anything like this before. This is unprecedented. It's crazy. But it doesn't matter. We will always come back. Always. And the day that we don't come back is the day that your dollars are meaningless. So putting them in your mattress or keeping them in your savings account is meaningless. It is meaningless. So just having that understanding of reality and how things work from a practical standpoint would probably change your assessment of risk, and what level of risk you actually feel comfortable with. Because if you actually understand how this stuff works and you see the stock market dip, instead of panicking and saying, oh my God, I need to pull everything out, you would know, okay, the stock market is down. If it's down, it means it's going to come back up. I should put more money in. It's as simple as that. That's what Warren Buffett does. When people are running this way, he's running that way. That's what we all should be doing, because when the common person is gravitating towards an investment, that means it's already too late. It's too late to put your money in that. The best time to buy Apple is when nobody's talking about Apple. When nobody's thinking about Apple, that's the best time to buy Apple. When everybody's talking about it, it's too late. Why are you buying Apple now? And I'll say this and I'll shut up, but think about it like buying a polo from the store, from the mall. Imagine going to the store, seeing a polo shirt that usually costs $100 on sale for $75. Would you look at that shirt and say, oh my God, the price went down on that shirt. I'm not going to buy that now. I want to wait till it goes back up. But that is literally how people invest their money. They invest their money in things that have already gone up. I want to buy Johnson & Johnson when they're dealing with a lawsuit over some baby powder, because Johnson & Johnson is one of the most financially solid companies in the world. They got money tucked away for lawsuits upon lawsuits. So it doesn't matter that they're getting sued over baby powder. And who cares about that baby powder now? That was the biggest topic a year ago, was that baby powder that may or may not have been causing cancer. Johnson & Johnson's still thriving though. Now, if we're talking about some startup company, some speculative company that may or may not be here 5 years from now, all right, they got a lawsuit, they may not survive it. But that's the thing. In reality, people don't, the common person can't differentiate between a Johnson & Johnson and a Netflix. Netflix is not profitable. Great. I watch Netflix. I'm a subscriber. I was an early subscriber. I love Netflix. But as an investment, it's not a profitable company. They got debt out of their ears right now. Tesla, not a profitable. Tesla hasn't been profitable ever. There's some analysts who look at Tesla and think it's a Ponzi scheme. But it's a popular company, and they make some cool cars. And personally, I do like Elon Musk. I think he's going to take us to the next frontier. But as a financial advisor, I look at that investment and I say, this doesn't make sense to bank my retirement on. If I see the price go down significantly, if I see it down 10% in a day, okay, I might put some money in it speculatively to make some quick buck. But I'm not going to bank. I'm not going to bet the farm on this. This company, if something detrimental happens to them, they may not be here 5 years from now. They're not solid. So I say that to say, education is what's key to understanding risk and your comfortability with where you put your dollars. But as Kenyatta said, it really is on a case-by-case basis to determine what's right for you relative to your goals and your risk tolerance to determine where your money should be best suited.
Okay. Next question is actually related to that. What types of investments exist? I hear that investment plans ought to align with me.
That is 100% correct. All investment plans should align with the individual. And as far as what type of investments exist, you know, they have stocks, bonds, mutual funds. You know, you can invest in people, you can invest in houses, you can invest in cars. But as far as, you know, my aspect of my realm, I really look to make sure, like I said, we have a plan in place to really get you to where you want. As far as, you know, if we have a plan that I feel a certain mutual fund or a certain group of funds could get you to where you want to be, then that's something that we'll have a talk over and be able to discuss the pros and cons really of why we're doing this, because, you know, you always have to factor in some form of tax implications. Talk to a CPA for that. But like I said, some form of tax implications, what will happen with this specific company, or how this manager's doing with this, and just things that we want to cover to make sure that you are aware of what type of investments we're going to invest you in, why we're doing it, why we're doing this, and if we need to change, what is the next step in doing that.
Mr. Jeter?
I would completely agree. There's literally a world of investments out there. There's investments you haven't even heard of that I could tell you about and educate you on, because there's a world of them, I promise you. But the reality is that whatever blend of investments is put together, it needs to be reflective of you as an individual, what's important to you, what your goals are, and kind of where you are right now. So so yes, the statement is absolutely correct. It needs to just align with you as an individual, really.
Okay. Next question. How can life insurance support a family if you reach and pass the age of 90?
Good question. So life insurance, you can actually convert it into some form of an annuity. So an annuity in layman terms is I outlive my money. So I outlive the money that I've saved for retirement, and I need other ways to supplement that income. You know, you do have for a certain type of insurance, life insurance, you have a cash value you can draw on, and various benefits. But like I said, an annuity is definitely a way where you can turn that life insurance policy of have a death benefit. So if I die at a certain age, okay, I'm expected to live to live past the age of 90. How can I supplement my income and make sure it supports my family in a way where I don't have to get a penalty, get any kind of surrender charges, or any adverse effects?
I would absolutely agree. I mean, there's just like we just said in the last question, like how there's a world of investments, there's a world of life insurance as well. And there's a ton of different ways that life insurance policies can be structured to, either, supplement your retirement or pay for your retirement. It could be there to cover long-term care, transfers of wealth. It could be anything, really. So it just, what's right is relative to you as an individual, though. So for example, there's life insurance policies that I have offered many clients that are dubbed as like rich man Roth accounts, essentially, because they work just like a Roth IRA. But the reality is, would I advise that to someone who can actually qualify to put money into a Roth IRA? No, because it's not appropriate for them. It's not in their best interest to use a policy like that for their retirement savings, because you could just as well do better and pay less in something outside of that life insurance policy for that same goal. So yes, you can use a life insurance policy to support your family if you reach and past age 90, and 90 isn't even like the set in stone age. Like we can put any age for endowment on a life insurance policy. So I just say that to say there's a world of life insurance policies. There's a world of how we can structure a life insurance policy where it'll be most advantageous for you. But whatever it is that we have in place, it just needs to be appropriate for whatever your goals are and whatever is important to you.
Okay. Next question. Here is $100, $500, $1,000, and $2,500. What is available to me, and how should I invest it?
I actually get that question a lot when I tell people I'm a financial advisor. And the first thing I tell them is planning. It's not something to where you can go into this like buying just a random item at the store. It takes careful planning to figure out what you want to do, why you want to do it, what's your goal for this. So like I said, if you want to invest the $1,000, is it for something you want to do in the next 3 months, 3 years, or whatever time frame you want? So I tell people I'm a planner first. We plan to invest, and we invest to plan, because like I said, you can't just go off the blue with what should I invest in? What should I do? Because it's, as a fiduciary, we can't soundly give you advice on what you should do without knowing you. We have this thing called a KYC, know your client. We have to know you before we take any kind of before we give any kind of recommendations. One, because that's just who I am. I love to help people, and I can only help you as much as I know. Two, it's basically illegal at this point for some of us, because of, kind of regulations within the government, because like I said, financial planners or stockbrokers, as they were called, were doing things behind the client's back, were not acting in the best interest, and the client was retired, and they had all their money in some bogus stock or mutual fund or company, and it just went belly up, and they're like, what's going on? And that was because, like I said, they trusted their money, sort of just like that question: what is available? How should I invest? All right, hell, give me your money. I'll invest in this and that. And you really don't know what's going on until it's too late. So that's the question. I like to get that question, because then I get to talk to people. I get to really explain to them what's going on, what I do, and how I can help them. And then from there, we figure it out.
So, Jeter?
I completely agree with Kenyatta on that one, as I've said many times on this call. Just by show of hands, has anyone seen Wall Street or Wolf of Wall Street, any of those movies? Mm-hmm. Okay, a few of you. That person on that movie is who would take that information and run with it. Oh, you have $1,000 to invest. If somebody just knows how much you have to invest today and is making a recommendation for you, it's probably not somebody advising you in your best interest, because that person doesn't know anything about you. They don't know what this money is even for. Just like Kenyatta said, like, what is the goal? Like why are we even investing in the first place? And that's why earlier on the call I said, the neighbor who told you to buy Apple stock, that means nothing. That's a meaningless recommendation. Just like the person next to me at the bank who says, you should put this percentage into your 401k. Why? Why is what's right for you what's also right for me? Is it just because we have kids? Is it just because we want to retire someday? Is it just because we make money here at this company? Because you as an individual and what's important to you and what you should be invested in spans far beyond just those details. I can talk to a father of two married who's in the same situation with another father of two married, and these guys have completely different goals. I can talk to one person over here who says, look, my goal is to leave my beneficiaries with as much as possible. And this person over here says, look, I'm trying to live my life. These kids will figure it out after I die. I want to live and spend my money. So how in the heck are we investing the same way? How? That doesn't make sense. You as an individual are much more special than you give yourself credit for, generally speaking. Most times people just say, they assume that their situation is just like the person next to them. And it's not. It never is. What's important to you is not what's important to them. What's ideal for your future is not necessarily what's ideal for their future. So just saying I have $100, $500, $1,000, $2,500, That's not enough information for a quality financial advisor or a fiduciary to give you a sound investment advice on. It's just not.
Okay. All right. Well, our next question is actually segues into that same topic. For those people who are single, never married, and no kids, what are your top 3 suggestions as it relates to insurance and investments? There seems to be more focus on if you have kids and being married. Your thoughts?
So I'm going to kind of answer that question backwards. So the focus, mainly why you see the focus or people focus on if you have kids or being married is mainly because those people are some of the people who seek out financial advisors, because at that point they have so much going on that they're like, I need help. I am a single person, not married, no kids. So I really try to focus on that group to where proper planning will avoid you from going crazy when you do have kids, when you do want to get married. Insurance policies. I have an insurance policy because I have family. I have a mother, a father, a sister, and I have a home. So that's something that I need to be sure of when in case of my untimely demise, they have the necessary assets and protection to pay off all of my debt, my house, things that I have. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, I want to give them a whole bunch of money. I just want to have enough to where they're not stressing over my debt, the things that I had going on when I'm not on this earth. So I feel insurance is still definitely important for people who are single with never married and no kids because of that reason, as well as investing. The earlier you start investing, the better. Especially you actually might be able to invest a little bit more or a little bit more aggressively when you don't have things like kids, when you're not married. It becomes more focused on how do I set myself up for the future if these things happen to happen. If they don't, that's fine. We plan accordingly. Plans change. But it's always to have a plan when you start, then try to create one when it's I wouldn't say too late, but when you have more mouths to feed or you have something that's really on your brain and you need financial advising. It's always good to definitely talk to someone when you're, like I said, when you're single, so you have that proper planning.
Yeah, I would even, again, I agree with everything Kenyatta said. I would even take it a step further on like why you hear that so often about people with kids. I think it's also because when people have kids and families, that's when usually people start thinking a little bit more beyond themselves, usually, and that usually starts, a conversation about the future and about what you're on track to do or not to do, So I think that, once you have a kid, then you start thinking, how can I make this kid's life better? How can I make sure they don't have student loans? How can I make sure they're good when they come out of college or something like that, which obviously would start a conversation around investments, So yes, that is very common that you would see advice or see, the service kind of geared towards folks who are, married or with kids or something like that. But the reality is, it doesn't really matter what your circumstances, it doesn't matter what your situation is. You should be working with a financial advisor and you should have a plan. You should have a strategy in place for, if not other people's future, your future, like just growing your assets. Simple as that could have a huge impact on your future. Growing your assets appropriately, protecting your assets. I mean, all of these different things play a big role in your future, whether you're single by yourself or, raising a family, or if you got grown kids, or retirement is around the corner, or you just stepped into retirement, whatever it is, you should have a strategy in place for your life, your future, your finances. It really doesn't matter, what your circumstance is. Every circumstance deserves a plan, for sure.
Okay. All right. Next question. What are your thoughts on the use of insurance for wealth building? And that includes whole life and whole life insurance policies and other policies. for wealth building strategies?
It is key for wealth building. It is the one thing that we as a minority are lacking, because that is, I would say, the easiest way to ensure that you set yourself up and set your kids up and your family for the future, is by having an insurance policy, making sure that in case of your untimely demise, or in case you do live a healthy life, that your kids will have something to leave a legacy with. Generational wealth starts with insurance. That's how a lot of rich white people, for lack of better terms, have gotten started. Donald Trump's father's father got started off of an insurance policy. And so I think that's one thing that we don't have enough knowledge in, is how to build generational wealth without having to be rich and famous. The earlier you start an insurance policy, the less expensive it is. And you can keep that whole life policy, get a cash value and really be able to set yourself up. And it also brings a peace of mind of what's going to happen. How is it going to look? How is my family going to survive if I'm not here? Especially if you're the main breadwinner. You definitely need insurance if that's the case, because like I said, your family deserves to really kind of start off and gain knowledge without having to worry about how am I going to pay for this? How are we going to go through this and what we're going to do? So life insurance as a wealth building platform is key. It's up there. It's, if not number one of the top ways to build wealth.
Absolutely. I would definitely agree with everything he just said. I would even conceptualize the point that insurance just in general is lacking in the Black community in a big way. And just to kind of put things in perspective for you, investments are great, right? Because you're growing your money. That's good. That's ideal, right? But the reality is, the investments only work if you live long enough to see them grow. You have no clue when you're going to die, especially if you live in Atlanta, driving in these streets. These people don't even use turn signals down here. You could die tomorrow. You could die on the way to wherever you're going today. So you have no clue what could happen to you at any point in your life. And if you're betting that, I'm going to live the next 60 years, so my family will be good, that's not a bet that you should be making, because you just have no clue when our Lord and Savior is going to take you home. So that being said, you need to have insurance so that whether you die 60 years from now, whether you die tomorrow, your people are good. And even if you don't care about your family, you need insurance. You need some sort of protection for your assets, for what may come before death. Like we said about long-term care. I can't even tell you, I know I'm not alone on this call in regards to having seen some GoFundMes pop up when people die. I know I'm not. I know you all have seen that. I know you've gotten the text, the invite, I know you've seen it on your timeline. And that really, it really kind of ticks me off and really kind of just makes me sad every time I see those things. Because one of my good friends, actually, from back home, back in Philly, his daughter had just died about a month ago, and a GoFundMe came up. And this is a guy that I spoke to when I started my career as a financial advisor and told him, hey, we can get these things in place. We can make sure, everybody's good. But for some reason, and it's not our fault, there's systematic racism in the financial industry to a level that you could not imagine. But the reality is that in the Black community, we've just, sometimes we have an issue with conceptualizing that end of the spectrum. With seeing the possibilities that could happen to ourselves and our families later on in life. Because a lot of times we just think we have more time than we actually do. We think that, I'll handle that later. I'll get to that later. I'm young. I don't need to think about that. But you just don't know. That's a false assumption to just say that you have time, because you don't. You do not have time. And even if you are going to live until 100, you should always be taking a diversified approach to everything you do financially. So putting all your eggs in the basket that only works if you live 60 years from now, that's not a diversified approach to your finances. You should never be putting all your eggs in any one basket. You need to make sure that you have a well spread out group of finances and assets and investments. So whether the market is up or down, there's always something that's doing well. Whether, you know, you're healthy or not, there's always something that you can rely on. So, you know, just kind of think in those terms and just understand, and I'm sure, you know, Kenyatta has seen this as well, but this is especially challenging in the Black community to get folks to conceptualize this. You know, I've literally had Black people tell me, I don't believe in life insurance. And I completely understand why they said it, because, you know, there's distrust in insurance companies in the past. There's been crises in the insurance community, but the reality is there's ways to circumvent that. There's ways that if you just know better, you would do better, so that your family does not have to put up a GoFundMe or pass around a collection plate for you at the church, because I've seen it and it's not good at all. You know, you could, I'm not saying you have to go out like Aretha Franklin with all the pink Cadillacs lined up down the street for your funeral. I'm not saying it needs to be all that, but I'm just saying it does not need to be a burden. You know, like you're already, if you're, you know, playing any role in your family's life, just the fact that you died is enough of a burden. But imagine on top of that, now we got to figure out how we're going to fly Aunt May out here when she has her condition and all that. How are we going to feed people who come to the house? I hope people bring food to the house. Like all these things, you're grieving, and you got to figure out all these financial things in the midst of that. Like, that just makes a hard situation exponentially worse. And it could have been easily circumvented by just being proactive, by just not taking for granted the time that you have or do not have. Time is very valuable, and that's the thing you never get back. So, you know, just be smart about it is all I have to say about that, you know.
Next question. Do any of you have any programs about finance on YouTube?
Say that question, I couldn't hear it.
Do either of you have programs about finance on YouTube?
I don't have any kind of programs. Are you talking about like a YouTube channel or anything like that?
Yeah, I think that's what they're asking.
No, I don't. That's actually not a bad idea. You know, I should definitely do something like that. But as of right now, I do not have any kind of platform on YouTube. I have a Facebook page, a social media, LinkedIn, but currently nothing on YouTube.
Yeah, same here. I do not have anything like that. I don't even, you know, I think there's plenty of resources out there like Dave Ramsey and, you know, all those folks who have those radio shows that give general advice out there. But the reality is, it don't matter. You know, general advice is good for the person who isn't going to meet with a financial advisor, the person who isn't doing anything. It's good to do what they say over doing nothing, for sure. But what they say is never going to trump individualized. I hate to use that word as a verb now, but it's never going to supersede the advisement that you're going to get from a financial advisor that's specific to your situation. So you should never be putting what you hear on a radio show over, you know, individualized advice that was given to you by a financial professional. So I say that to say, you know, just like when you hear somebody say, everybody should invest in this, there should be an asterisk by that statement. Everybody who's doing nothing should probably invest in that. Yeah, invest in that before you go buy that Gucci bag. Yeah, invest in that before you go to Vegas, right? Like, yes, that should be the asterisk. But the reality is everybody should not be investing in any one thing, period. That's just not, it's not a true statement. And the reason why is because if you've actually gotten advice, so you know better, you know how to diversify, you know a plan specific to your future, your goals, and what's important to you, then whatever that person said everyone should have may or may not be a part of that.
Okay. Next question. How important to your portfolio is a will or trust?
The will is very important. You know, because like I said, it's along the same lines of a life insurance policy. Because, you know, you want to want to be able to dictate after death what happens to your assets, because to avoid any kind of family squabble, avoid the state government or local government from taking control of certain assets. You want to be as in control as you can. And that's why a will and or trust is an important aspect. There's different types of trust where you can set your money up in certain type of ways, and that's like I said, individual planning. But I'll definitely, if we do have a conversation, a will and a trust will be involved in that, because like I said, it's something to where you don't want your family trying to figure out what's going to happen with grandma's house when she has 8 kids. Or what happens to your house when you have 8 kids, or some sort of that lines. You want to figure out for the family. So, someone will get that, someone will get this, leave some over for my grandkids for college. It's a great wealth planning tool in case of your untimely demise, or if you live a full healthy life. It's something that I really like I said, the Aretha Franklin situation. She had 4 or 5 wills just written out randomly, and I believe there still might be fighting in court over it between her siblings. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to get into a fight with my siblings when my parents passed away. That's not something that you really want to happen. It has happened. I've seen it, and to where people do not talk because of the assets went to probate and they didn't get what they thought they could. And the will set all of that straight, as well as other retirements, to where you have your beneficiaries properly figured out, to where, like I said, if you do have a ex-wife and she's still the beneficiary of your IRA, that's a whole nother battle you don't want to get in as well. Always make sure your documents are up to date: wills, beneficiaries, life insurance policies, contingent beneficiaries, things like that, because like I said, you never know what can happen, and you want to try and prepare for every scenario, as many scenarios as you can, so you're ready for the future and whatever happens.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I would even, outside of just thinking wills and trusts, just think estate planning. You need to just have an estate plan together, because that may involve a will, it may involve a trust, it may involve neither, it may involve both. It could be very comprehensive. But the thing is, just like Kenyatta said, there are tons of countless just nightmare horror stories I could tell you that I've seen personally in regards to either neither of those things being in place, or just like cookie cutter ones being in place. It's like right now, it's very common for people to get a will done by going on like LegalZoom or Legal Shield or something like that. And, that maybe that is where you should go to get your will put in place. But for most people, it isn't. But that is where most people get theirs done. You have to understand, like, places like that, probably some estate planning service through your employer, usually 9 times out of 10 is going to be some really cookie cutter service. It's going to be really generic. And the thing about your situation is that it's probably not cookie cutter. You probably don't have a cookie cutter situation. I've literally seen families torn apart over who was getting mom's pearls. Who's getting mom's pearls? I've seen families torn apart over that. I have a client right now. His family isn't torn apart, but there's a lot of resentment because some of the siblings got land that other siblings felt they shouldn't have gotten. I've got situations where a will was put in place and there's like maybe 3 siblings, but one of the daughters actually took care of the mom before she died for several years. So she's like, whoa, I poured out all this money. I took care of her while you other ones didn't do anything. I wanted to put her in a nursing home. Why are we getting fair shares of this estate? This is why you need to update your will, as Kenyatta said. This is why you just need to have a comprehensive estate plan. That's it. Like, it is a big part of your portfolio. Otherwise, rest assured, whether you have 2 million or you have 200, people, you'd be surprised. People will fight over it, for sure. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a pair of shoelaces. People will fight over it. It will tear a family apart. Thinking about it, it may not be something worth anything. It might just have some sentimental value to somebody, and they feel like they deserve it because they went on the trip with mom when she got that. You know, like anything could be thought of after the fact, where people are adding on details, adding on feelings to why they should get this, why they should get that, why mom would like for this to happen, or dad would have wanted this. Having an estate plan that's proactive alleviates all that thought, because this document, this plan says exactly what dad wanted. This says exactly what mom wanted. I might have a family that I've raised. I don't have any kids yet, but you know, one day I'll have kids and a family and all that stuff. And maybe when I die, I want everything to go to Morehouse College. If that's written down, nobody's disputing that, because Nolan knows. Everybody knows Nolan loved Morehouse College. He wanted all his stuff to go to Morehouse College. So my kids growing up saying, oh, well, we deserve this and he would have wanted that. Nope. Your father specifically said he wanted everything to go to Morehouse College. Now, that's an extreme situation, but I'm just saying, whether it's extreme or simple, being proactive and being concise and comprehensive is what circumvents all the heartache, the headache, all the confusion that could come from somebody's passing, because normally 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some confusion if there's no estate plan that's been put in place. And beyond that, also, you know, there's several other layers to it about privacy and things like that. I mean, you know, a will is usually something that, you know, is going to be public, you know, versus a trust is private. I mean, there could be some situations in your family you don't want people to know about. There might be an illegitimate child somewhere. There could be, you know, it could be anything that you just want to keep private, and a trust can help you to do that, because the trust is held by the attorney and kept in confidentiality, whereas the will and the estate has to be, you know, put through the courts. So, you know, there's a lot of different layers of thoughts and consideration that come with estate planning that you just want to make sure you're proactive about. Otherwise, you're kind of asking for trouble, for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, our next question is very similar. I think it's related to this question. What about people that are married? I thought that everything goes to the spouse.
Not necessarily. You know, you have some states that have a community property law, so where, you know, whatever you get while you were married, half of it goes to the spouse. You have other states to where it goes through probate, and based on different aspects of when you get it, who uses it, how much money did they put into it, it could either go to the kids or to the wife. But there is no guarantee that everything will go to your spouse. That's why a will and or trust is always important, so you can specify who gets what. Assuming that everything goes to the spouse is a common thing. You know, obviously you've been married to this person, and it's an equal partnership, and the courts don't necessarily see it that way. Unfortunately, you know, you have some people who the kids feel like they might resent the mother. It might be a stepmother or a stepfather or something like that, to where you have to specify who gets what and how everything is broken down, versus assuming that your spouse will get everything.
That's correct. And if you have a beneficiary on your bank account, that beneficiary designation supersedes spousal rights. So if I have that my friend is getting my investment account after I die, it doesn't matter if I'm married for the 3rd time. It doesn't matter if I have 10 kids, it's going to my friend. That's a legal document that supersedes all spousal rights. So no, everything definitely does not automatically go to a spouse. And yes, things can absolutely be contested when they go through the courts as well. I have a situation right now with one of my good clients who her husband passed away. She wasn't his first wife. His kids are literally in court with her right now, going at it, trying to fight over this money. And this is a large sum of money, and she's had to come out of pocket a great deal on legal fees, because nobody can touch the money in his estate just yet until the courts deem who is actually going to be executor of his estate. So no, everything does not automatically go to the spouse at all. It really kind of depends on your circumstance, depends on what documents are in place. And you could have documents like a beneficiary designation that supersede all probate as well. So it just kind of depends.
Good question. I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that. We have time for one more question, and this question is actually pretty good. If I came to you as a client, what should I expect? I guess I mean a consultation or a first visit. What would they expect in terms of your services as a new client?
You come to my first visit. My first visit is really to get to know you, learn more about you and how I could be of service to you, how I can help you reach your goals. We'll go over what you currently do, what your goals are as far as you have any spouse, any kids, any grandparents you want to take care of, things like that. Just overall goals, monetary. You might want to fund your daughter's or your son's wedding in 10 years from now, just things like that, and what things we need to put in place to first protect your money. Second, make sure that you are investing correctly as far as your time horizon, risk tolerance, making sure that you're currently staying on a budget, I guess, if you need a budget in order to really get control over your finances. Because the first thing that I look for is to make sure that the client is that we're able to get control over their current situation before we start to focus on the future. Because you can be so far into the future that you're just putting massive amounts of money away, and next thing you know, you have something happens and you need to take some of that money out. So definitely planning for the present, so we can get a map of how we're going to tackle the future. But yeah, your first visit will definitely be a kind of get to know each other. I know a lot of people, when I tell them what I do, they put me kind of on a pedestal. It's unfortunate, but obviously it happens with some career fields. And I just wanted to make a point to people that I'm human. I go through things. I have a family. I do things outside of this job, and really, the comfort level is what you're looking for, so they can trust you. Because dealing with people's finance, that's literally health and wealth, two of the things that are near and dear to people, and at least should be. And so when you're dealing with that, some people are nervous to go to the doctor because they might have an issue that they don't want to talk about, or you want to go to your advisor because you have something going on with your money. So you definitely want to make sure that, like I said, we are building that relationship, and that's where it first starts.
Mr. Jeter?
My process is a very structured one because I'm a guy who really appreciates some good structure. The first contact would be just to call my office, and my administrative assistant, she will schedule you on the calendar for a quick call, and that call is usually like 15 minutes, and it's just to determine if I can actually add value to your situation. That's where we kind of start. I just kind of give you an overview, just a quick overview of like how we do things, what we do, how we can best serve you, and I get an idea of what you have going on just to determine if I can even add value. Because the reality is the relationship that you have with your financial advisor, it is an intimate one for sure. Sometimes people underestimate how intimate it is, but I can assure you, I know more about my clients than their attorneys know about them. Sometimes I know more than their spouses know about them. It's an intimate relationship, and it is a long lasting one. I'm a pretty young guy, so the majority of my clients, I'm going to see them through retirement. I'm probably going to see them to the grave, so it's an intimate relationship. So you just want to make sure it is a good fit. You want to make sure that, you don't, like I said before, you don't want to be that person in a relationship saying, oh, my boyfriend's going to change, my girlfriend's going to change, she's going to value me one day. You want to make sure whoever this person is, they value you today. And that's a two-way street, because not to sound cocky or anything like that, but I know the value I bring to the table, And I'm not going to take on a client that isn't going to value my advisement, because that'd be a waste of my time. That means I'm like giving this person quality advice I could have been given to someone else, and this person isn't even taking my advice, you know? So I have to kind of have that call just to make sure that we're on the same page, you know, and that you actually do want to do better, you know? And it's less about how much you have to start. It's more about the mindset that I'm kind of gauging in that first call. And also just kind of setting the expectation as well about, you know, what to expect next. So you call the office, my assistant, Sherry, she'll schedule a time for that 15-minute call. And then after that 15-minute call, then we'll schedule a comprehensive talk, which will either be, you know, virtual or in person. We just started opening the office for in-person appointments again, maybe about a week ago, but with restrictions. But that is possible, but most of our appointments are virtual. And that one is, just so you know what to expect, it's very educational. So I'm literally like teaching you the 101 basics of investments that you should know before you get into this. I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions to kind of gauge who you are, what's important to you, what your goals are, things like that. And then I'll kind of show you the tools that we use to help you to reach your financial future. So the planning tools, I kind of run through those. And then at the end, we end with a strategy. You know, like you would actually leave that appointment knowing, okay, this is what I should do next if I decide to continue with this guy. So at that point, you can make that call yourself to say, okay, you know what? Everything you said makes sense. I want to do this. Or, you know what? I appreciate the advice, but, you know, this isn't the right fit for me. So I want to do something else. So after that second appointment, which is the comprehensive one, then we actually put things into play and we start, you know, investing or, you know, growing the assets or protecting the assets or whatever. So that's how our process works every time.
Good. All right, before we close out, I'm going to give the presenters just a few minutes to say anything that you think you did not say during the presentation. Some closing comments. Mr. Myers, you can go ahead and start first.
Yeah, so I wanted to thank everyone, first of all, for coming out to the presentation. I really do appreciate your time, and I'm glad people are seeking out information on how to be financial literate, on how to build wealth properly, and really use it professionally. I'm here for you. Please definitely feel free to give me a call at any time. I'm definitely available and really open to giving out knowledge, because, you know, one thing people fear is the unknown. And when you know more about what your situation is, how your money can work for you, it'll make life so much easier. I know when I was first starting this career field, it was something that I loved. You know, I gained knowledge from doing everyday things, from learning from others, and that's something that I want to bring to everyone, especially my fraternity brothers and anyone willing to seek out that information. So once again, I thank you, and my contact information is in the chat. I can definitely go ahead and put it in there again, so definitely feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and if you want to create a plan, I'm here for you.
I would say the same thing, essentially. So first and foremost, thank you to everybody who attended, and thank you to the brothers who invited me on this call, Mr. McKeever, my brother Richard Eskridge as well. Thank you for inviting me to the call. I love to do these types of things. I love to educate the community on things like this. So that's always great. Please use me as a resource. Even if you're not going to work with me, you know, I'm always happy to be a resource and answer questions. I would much rather you get information from me than, you know, social media or trying to find it, you know, on your own. So definitely use me as a resource. I'm always happy to help, always happy to give information. My contact info is at the top of the chat, or you just Google Nolan Jeter and my office info will come up as well. Just anything you need. I'll leave you with this last thing, since Kenyatta kind of talked about this as well. The reason why I even became a financial advisor was because I shared before, I come from Philadelphia, West Philadelphia to be exact, which is not an affluent town. There's no people with money there. At least there wasn't when I was growing up there. And all of my family was in the same situation. I mean, nobody had any money. You know, they were just really hardworking, working class people, except for one uncle. I have one uncle. He's Uncle Rick. This guy, he lives out in Hinesville, Georgia now. And he was in the military just like all the other guys in my family. Didn't do anything special in the military. He was just infantry, you know. But he was in a significantly different financial situation from everyone else in the family in a good way. And one day I asked him why that was the case. And he told me that a financial advisor had gotten to him when he was in his 20s and told him to do some things that he didn't want to do, but he did them. And he said he owed all of his financial success to that guy. And once I heard that, I knew I wanted to have that same impact on people's lives. And that's why I do what I do today. And that's why I shared earlier that I'm gonna retire doing exactly what I do today, or die. I'm gonna die doing what I do today. You know, they're probably gonna have to force me out of the building, you know, but nevertheless, this is what I love to do. You know, the stuff that Kenyatta and I do, there's not enough of us, you know, in the community doing the right kind of work to help people in the community, to educate people in the community. So events like this are so powerful, so important. And my only ask of everybody in this call, you don't have to work with me or Kenyatta. That's not the big picture. The big picture is that you don't let this information die with you. Pass the information on that you heard today to your family, your friends, your loved ones, because the more we know, the better we do. So the whole community would just benefit from learning what you just learned today. And use us as a resource. Any questions you have, anything we can do, even if you have a question about your 401k at work, or, you know, just a question about a will, or how you should be thinking about politics and how it affects you and Social Security, whatever. We're here to help in that regard. So don't guess about it. Don't leave it to chance. You know, talk to a professional. And, you know, we're not going to, you know, at the end of the conversation, we're not going to send you an invoice in the mail or anything like that. So just take advantage of us. You know, that's what we're here for.
All right. Well, thank the presenters for coming out today, Mr. Myers, Mr. Jeter. All right, thank all the guests for coming today. And before you go, if you happen to be in the Atlanta area, just want to throw this out. Lambda Sigma, which is one of the sponsors of this event, is having a drive-by barbecue fish fry today. Fish plates $10, barbecue plate $12. Hey, we got to get our sales pitch in, right? But just in case you're in the Atlanta area, we do have that event going on today. And it's a fundraiser, so it benefits scholarships. So if you're available, please come through. And with that, and Brother Elsie, anything else to add?
Nothing else to add except for thank you to guys for stepping up and facilitating this particular important discussion. And thanks to all of the guests that dialed in this morning to receive this information. So thank you, and we'll be in contact.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.